If you run a business, you need to understand the power of storytelling. Storytelling is one of the most powerful tools to hook your listeners and keep them glued to every word you say. And the truth is, a lot of advice out there makes it seem way too complicated. Storytelling is actually pretty simple if you understand what actually matters. So if you just give me a few minutes today, you'll discover the 5 storytelling techniques that allowed me to build an audience of over 30,000 people, funneling them all into a school community that became the #1 community in the niche. This allowed me to coach hundreds of students, get paid to speak on stages, and generate life-changing income that now allows me to live the life I used to manifest in my journal. Let's get into it. Rule number 1, you must fall in love with the game. Listen carefully. People are only interested to the degree that you are interested. So when you tell a story, people will only be interested to the degree that you're interested in that story. And guess how you become interested in what you're saying? By understanding the importance of it. What you need to understand, my friend, is that storytelling is the reason behind all the greatest wars in history, all the ideologies that killed hundreds of millions of people. It is the reason behind all the most powerful and beautiful religions in the world as well. It's the reason why a terrorist can attach a bomb to himself and jump in a crowd of innocent people dying for something he believes is greater than himself. I say he, but it could be a she, most likely it's men, whatever. They believe they die as heroes. It's a story. Whether you look at it from a psychological perspective, a spiritual perspective, or even a scientific perspective, neuroscience agrees. Human beings cannot experience reality outside of a story. The stories we believe about who we are, about what life is, about what everything is what shapes our reality. And so when you tell a story, you have the power to shift someone's life at a much deeper level than any advice you could possibly tell. So when you understand that, the way in which you express a story, the passion with which you tell it, will completely shift the way the person feels, and therefore the way the person listens. Rule number 2, you must give them a reason to listen, aka proof or evidence as to why they should listen to you. Remember at the beginning of the video when I told you I've generated a big audience, built a #1 school community, allowing me to live the lifestyle, I have a beautiful background. If that was not there, most likely you wouldn't have stayed this far into the video, especially when it's a type of video that doesn't have a lot of sophisticated editing. The reason you are still here is because I gave you a reason to listen to me, or if I didn't have the proof, I would have used examples. I would have borrowed big brands of successful people or successful stories out there. And if you actually cannot borrow any big brand, you cannot share any proof of yourself, there's actually a little technique that you can still use, which is to make it relatable. Speak the language of the people. And the fact you understand their psychology deeply very often is a good enough reason for them to listen to you. Rule number 3, show, don't tell. Paint a picture. You might have heard that often in the marketing sales space. The reason is most humans are visual. Let's give an example of someone who went on stage and he's giving a story of how he felt before he hopped on the stage. So let's say he says, I was nervous before hopping on the stage, versus my palms were sweating so much I had to wipe them in my jeans before grabbing the mic. See how different it is? One of them allowed you to literally put yourself in the shoes of the person telling the story. It was visual. You could feel the palms sweating, him, wiping them on the jeans. It's relatable, and it will get you much more engaged. You'll feel closer to the person speaking. The first one was telling, the second one was showing. When you tell, you're giving data. When you show, you're giving an experience. Metaphors, examples have always been the most powerful ways to teach. And if you care about teaching an idea or changing someone's life, metaphors, examples have always been the most powerful ways to do that. You want to know the greatest example in history? Jesus. All he did was speak in metaphors. No data whatsoever. Stories and metaphors. Greatest influencer of all time. Whatever your beliefs are, whatever religion you believe in, he is the most influential human in human history. All right, rule number 4, create tension as much as possible. And what I mean by tension is that every story needs a hero and a villain. Think about the greatest stories of history. Think about the Bible. Think about the greatest movies. Think about books. There's always a hero's journey where the hero is called to adventure. There's some challenges he has to overcome, and at the end, he learns something, he breaks free, and then the cycle can continue depending on how long the story is. That tension between good and evil is the classic reflection of the human psyche, our wrestling with morality, the way we build meaning on the line between the light and the dark, between comfort and challenge. We need both. We're consistently dancing between them. This is what makes a story so seductive. And by the way, little wink, it's what makes you seductive when you're getting to know a person. That mystery, that contrast, not being able to grasp them. There's something about that person. That's the contrast. So without needing to create this whole lore of the hero and the greatest villain trying to take the universe, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you want some form of common enemy. You remember at the beginning of this video, what did I say? I said a lot of advice out there makes it seem way too complicated, but the truth is it's actually pretty simple. What did I just do? I painted a common enemy. I said, okay, the advice out there that you've been listening to about storytelling is the enemy. I am the hero that will save us from the enemy, right? This is exactly what happened. Y'all gotta realize I'm practicing what I preach. Okay, anyways. Here is a little cheesy saying that will make you remember this point. Without tension, there is no attention. Okay, next. Point number 5. Turn your story into hypnosis. Here's what I mean by that. The way I define hypnosis is the ability to shift an architecture of belief. And what I mean by that is to be able to tell a story, and as you're telling the story, the person feels as if they are the character, and so whatever the character is going through and whatever lessons that character is learning become literal lessons in the subconscious mind of the listener. This is what hypnosis is. In every great movie or story or speaker, when you feel like time doesn't exist anymore, you are in the movie and you feel whatever the character is feeling and you're crying and you're laughing. This is what is changing your subconscious mind as you're watching it. So you can remember it this way. As you're telling a story, you have one and only job. You need to shift one core belief in the listener's mind. And in the game of persuasion and influence, ideally what you want to do is that that belief is aligned with whatever you want them to buy, whether a literal offer, but in my opinion, more importantly, an ideology, some form of lesson that will change their life. And with that being said, my friends, they lived happily ever after. The end. Much love. I'll see you here soon. Peace.